Elvis. Elvis, hello. 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 Hello everyone and welcome to this, the first edition of a Saturday Assortment from Book Time with Elvis, with me Mark, and of course Elvis as well there in the background. And you would have just seen a nice throwback clip to Elvis when he was a little puppy, and I think it was actually the day I got him or a day after I got him. So you know, that's what is that? That's almost 4 years ago now. It's amazing, isn't it? So, yes, so a Saturday Assortment, what is it? Well, this is going to be kind of a roundup of bookish and non-bookish things that I have done over the past week. So I'll start off by saying I'm slowly easing myself back into school life here in the Czech Republic. We are working on a rotation basis, so not all classes are back at school. They go back according to their years. So, for example, last week the 2nd and 4th years were at school, and next week the 1st, 3rd and 5th years will be at school. And I only have to go into school when I've got lessons, so it meant that I have had a couple of days working from home, which is good because the older classes still have work that we've been doing online. Mostly we do our English conversation in the form of videos. It's very hard to obviously hold a Zoom session for English conversation with, 15, 20 students all at once. So what I usually do is I make an example video for them, and then they send me all their videos of themselves speaking. So I get to, of course, individually assess them. Whilst being back at school, of course, we have to be tested. Both teachers and students have to be tested twice a week. I've already had my first COVID jab. I had that about three weeks ago, and it was the Moderna jab, and I hope to get the second one maybe next week or the week after. And at school this week we had Earth Day, and the young kids did a variety of different projects revolving around the environment and things like that, so it was very nice. Anyway, I'm going to also, of course, talk about books that I'm reading this month. I know I said in the video of what I plan to read this month, I think there were 5 or 6 books. At the moment, I am slowly progressing through 3 of them. The first one is North and South by John Jakes, which is the story, of course, of 2 families, the Hazard and Main family, the Mains being from the south and the Hazards being from the north. And I'm about halfway through that at the moment. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, it is a very big book. I think it's over 700 pages. And as I say, yeah, I'm about halfway through that, and it's very enjoyable. It's very interesting because I think it's quite a good book to give kind of a lot of what I see so far as being historical facts based around a kind of fictional, 2 fictional families, and how, of course, they interact with their environment. So everything going on behind it, and a lot of the incidental characters or background characters are, of course, real people. The depiction of slavery in it is quite brutal and vivid. Also it's quite interesting to see the attitudes of the 2 factions, if you like, the North and the South. How the more the North kind of looks down on the South for slavery, the more the South kind of like shuts itself up and is determined kind of to hang on to it. I think, obviously we look today at slavery being abhorrent. However, I think if the North had taken a view to kind of phasing it out rather than going on with this kind of this big moral high ground they had, and threatening to kind of like literally destroy the economy of the South by removing it immediately, perhaps things would have been different. I suppose you can say the same about a lot of the decolonization from the last century, that it was done too quickly and left the world in a mess. And I think perhaps that might have been a case there. Of course, from a human point of view, you'd want to end the institution of slavery immediately. though I think the North could have done more to financially incentivize the South, perhaps by supporting them financially with ending slavery, and perhaps that would have ended up being cheaper than fighting a civil war. Sorry, gosh, I'm really mumbling and mixing up my words this morning. I do apologize. The second book I'm reading is non-fiction. It's a Pulitzer Prize book by Elizabeth Kolbert. It's The Sixth Extinction. You probably saw it mentioned by Summer over at Cozy Reads with Quaker Cats. I'm really enjoying that. I'm also halfway through that. Enjoying it is a strong word. It's very well written, but of course it's quite scary when it looks at the environmental impact that humans have had on the world, and how we're probably hastening the so-called sixth great extinction that we could well be in at the moment. And it's very, very well written, as I said, and very readable. There are a couple of parts in it, where perhaps she goes into the methodology of some of the scientific stuff a bit too much, which isn't so appealing to me, but she seems to kind of pull my interest back in to the book. And yeah, it's a good read. And the third book I'm reading at the moment, I'm probably a quarter of the way through, is HHHH by Laurent Binet. And this is very interesting, actually. I have to say, I do understand why Mark Nash rated it so highly on his channel. It's kind of, how do I explain it? It's a novel about a man writing a non-fiction book, I suppose. So far, that's what I'm gleaning from it, and it's it's really excellent. Living in the Czech Republic, of course, it gives a bit of added weight to me when he talks about the Czech character and the Slovak character, and he compares, for example, the two men involved in the assassination of Heydrich, Kubiš and Gabčík. And he also then talks about the tennis players Ivan Lendl and Miloslav Mečíř. Although he does have a typing mistake in here, he calls him Miroslav Mečíř instead of Miloslav. But probably not many people would notice that, I suppose. But yeah, it's really good, and I look forward very much to carrying on with that. I have done a few other things this week. I've been working my way through a poem a day on the new Golden Treasury of English Verse by Edward Leeson. I've had this book for many years. This is a 1994 publication, and that would have been pretty much when I bought it, because we would have been doing some of the poems at school. But I decided to try and go through it from cover to cover. I'm only trying to do one poem a day. They do vary in length, and I've only just started, so I've done at the moment just 5 poems, and they've all been by anonymous, and they've all been written thus far in Middle English, which is challenging, definitely. But luckily I did study Chaucer at school, so I do have a little bit of a background in how to read it. So it's very nice, and as I say, I hope to get through this. Well, it'll take a while and a poem a day, but why not? There we go. Looks good. And I'm not reading the next thing, but I know a lot of people have been reading Dante's Inferno. And while I was at school, I was going through my cupboards, and I've mentioned in a previous video that my parents had to cull my library at home because they were moving house, and they did send me obviously quite a few books here, and 3 of the books they sent were copies of Dante's Divine Comedy. They are secondhand to me. I bought them actually while I was at school as well, doing my A-levels. We were doing Paradise Lost, and I bought it as a kind of companion, I suppose, or similar kind of read to that. And they're not in bad condition. It's quite interesting because I remember when I bought it, there was something funny about it, And perhaps one of you who's reading this can tell me if the following is a quotation from the work, because inside, when I got it home years ago, and it's still there, I haven't moved it, there was this card, and when I pulled it out, written on it in a kind of little calligraphy is this message here. Yeah. He who is near me is near the fire. And I wonder if that is a quotation from the work. The books themselves are very nice in the fact that they do have the Italian, you can see a bit yellowed there, but you have the Italian on one side and the English on the other. And this is a translation by John D. Sinclair, and these are from the Oxford paperbacks. It says Oxford paperback series. And yeah, and actually I think it's in the third book as well. It's nice because the book was obviously given to someone as a present back in 1981 for Lent, actually, Lent 1981, to Ian on his birthday from Simon. And then it's very nice because there is a quotation in there, if you can see it, from the work as well. So I think that's quite a nice thing to have. Yeah, they certainly readable condition, and having watched Tom LA Books doing his cantos, it's really inspired me to give them a go. I've come a bit too late to the party, so to speak, to kind of join in with everybody else, but I hope maybe at some point to go back over his videos and use them to help me read the series. And the last thing I'll talk about a bit is music. I know a couple of other people have talked about this in their videos, talked about music in their videos, and I really love music myself, especially classical music and opera. And I decided to do a bit of a Mozart marathon, or more precisely a Mozart operatic marathon. So I have decided to try and listen to one Mozart opera a week. Or, you know, I'm not sticking to that. It might be one every 2 weeks or whatever, but I mean, I absolutely love them. But I've started with his first genuine opera, which is Apollo et Hyacinthus, or I guess maybe if it's Latin, Hyacinthus, perhaps, which was an opera written by Mozart in 1767. And amazingly, he was only 11 years old at the time, and it is considered his first true opera because the one that's sometimes counted, which he wrote before, which is Die Schuldigkeit des ersten Geburts, is what they call just a sacred drama, so it doesn't really count as an opera. This is an opera in 3 acts, and it is based upon Greek myth and the myth of Hyacinth and Apollo, and I believe it's told by Ovid in his book or poem Metamorphosis. The libretto for the opera was written by Rufinus Vidal, and it was written in Latin, and of course it's sung in Latin. Interestingly, when the opera was first performed, it was performed by all male voices, from young boys up to men. So there were no female members of the cast at all when that started. The story itself is it's a love story. Hyacinth has a sister called Melia, and she falls in love with Apollo. Their father is a king, Obialus, and the other god, Zephyr, is jealous of this love, so he contrives a plan to kind of ruin it. So he wants to damage Apollo's reputation. So he arranges for Hyacinth to have an accident, and he is struck in the head by a discus, and Zephyr says to the king, Oebalus, that it was Apollo who threw the discus, and thus caused the death of his son. So Oebalus banishes Apollo, and Zephyr then tries to pursue Hyacinth's sister Melia. Of course, in the end, it all comes out, and the king laments, of course, that his favorite god Apollo has abandoned his kingdom. But Apollo comes back and he renews his feelings for Melia, and in the end they get together, and this causes like beautiful flowers to bloom from Hyacinth's grave, and the protection of Apollo is assured throughout the kingdom. So yeah, that's kind of my assortment, a Saturday assortment rather, and you know, it's a bit of a mishmash of stuff perhaps, but I thought I would try something a bit different, and if it works out, it would be nice to kind of talk about other subjects and not just standard books and whatnot. So super, thank you very much for watching. I will leave you with a clip from the opera Apollo et Hyacinthus, and I will see you all very soon. I certainly have to do a tag video for next week. I've been tagged once or twice this week. I need to double check, and I want to get involved in this booktube spin thing, and I need to select 20 books for that, and I'll probably do that today and either upload it tomorrow or something like that. So thanks for watching. Wish you all the best. Stay healthy and see you all soon. Thanks a lot, booktube. Take care. Bye bye.